All you do is take. You've never given this family anything. That's what my father shouted across the Thanksgiving table, his voice slicing through the laughter and clinking glasses like a blade. He said it so casually, so confidently, as if it were some universal truth everyone had quietly agreed on. No one corrected him. My mother looked down at her plate. My sister sipped her wine like she didn't hear a thing. And me? I just stood there, still holding the tray of roasted turkey I had spent hours preparing. My hands didn't shake. My voice didn't crack. I simply walked out. No tears, no drama, just silence. But that silence, that quiet exit, wasn't the end. It was the beginning. The beginning of a month where no one called. A month where they'd finally feel what it was like without me holding everything together. And when the cracks started to show, they came running. But this time, I didn't come back. I was never the loud one, never the golden child. That was always Amber. She was the cheerleader, the one with the straight-A report cards framed on the fridge, the one who got the bigger bedroom and the loud applause at every school recital. I didn't envy her, not exactly. I just learned to shrink myself to make space. Someone had to. While she was off at sleepovers or being doted on by our parents, I was doing dishes, helping with errands, picking up the pieces no one noticed had even fallen. I bought my own first car with scholarship money and part-time wages. I packed my own lunches. I stayed out of trouble. I stayed invisible. Even in adulthood, I didn't rebel. I didn't shout. I just worked quietly, obsessively, like my worth depended on being useful. And maybe it did. Because the moment I started making real money, that's when my family suddenly remembered I existed. It started small, innocently, almost. Amber needed help covering her last semester of college. Mom said the roof needed repairs and Dad had some unexpected dental bills. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself I was being a good daughter. But temporary became permanent. And, thank you, turned into expectation. When I paid off Amber's student loan, she never said a word, just forwarded me the next bill for her new apartment deposit. When Mom got the kitchen remodel she'd dreamed of, she told her friends, "We finally got it done," like I hadn't drained my savings to make it happen. And my father? He once looked me dead in the eye and said, "That's what family does." As if love meant emptying yourself for everyone else. They never asked how I was doing, never asked if I needed anything. They didn't even remember my birthday last year. I brushed it off, like always. Because what else was I supposed to do? Call a family meeting and demand appreciation? That wasn't how things worked in the Grant house. You smiled. You gave. You disappeared. Until Thanksgiving. Until the tray in my hands and the words that shattered something deep inside me. I think, in that moment, I realized I could vanish from that table and no one would notice until the money stopped flowing. And that's exactly what I planned to test. I didn't slam the door when I left that night. I didn't cry in the car. I just drove windows down, silence filling the space where music usually played. It wasn't anger I felt. It was something colder, heavier, like a curtain had dropped, and I could finally see the stage for what it was. All those years I thought I was part of a family. I had just been playing a role, supporting cast, background character, wallet. When I got home, I took off my shoes, set my phone face down on the counter, and opened my laptop. I logged into every financial platform I had access to. Tuition auto-pay, paused. Amber's rent transfer, canceled. The credit card Mom used, for emergencies, disabled. And the utilities for the lake house, yes, the one I'd been quietly covering ever since Dad threatened to sell it if someone didn't help? Gone. Let them figure it out. It wasn't revenge. It was release. I wasn't trying to hurt them. I was just done being hurt. The next morning, I turned off my phone. I called in sick, and I slept. I slept deeper than I had in years. 3 days passed. No texts, no missed calls, nothing. For a brief second, I wondered if they even noticed. But by day 7, I knew they had. It started with Amber. A string of panicked messages, starting with fake casual. "Hey, Weird question, did something happen with the tuition account? Then shifting quickly into, the school says it didn't go through. I'm going to lose my spot. Can you check it? I stared at the screen. My heart didn't race. My fingers didn't tremble. I just typed one sentence. Thought I never gave you anything. I hit send. And then I turned my phone off again. 1 hour later, the calls came flooding in. 2 from Mom, 1 from Dad, 4 from numbers I didn't recognize, probably Amber's friends, maybe her boyfriend. There was even a voicemail from Dad, his voice as sharp as ever. This little stunt of yours isn't funny. Your sister's future is on the line. You think this is how family acts? I laughed, genuinely laughed, for the first time in weeks. Because yes, I thought, this is exactly how family acts. At least, this is how you've treated me for years. Conditional love, performative concern, financial extraction. What you're really angry about isn't that I left. It's that I stopped funding the illusion. That night, I poured a glass of wine, curled up on my balcony, and watched the city lights flicker. I wondered how long it would take them to unravel without me. I didn't have to wait long. It took less than 2 weeks for the cracks to show. I hadn't heard from anyone after that last wave of voicemails, just silence, cold and deliberate. It was their go-to tactic. Freeze me out, guilt me into crawling back. It used to work. Not anymore. Then, one Thursday morning, I opened my inbox and saw it. A notice from the university addressed to me. Technically, I was still the listed guarantor on Amber's tuition agreement. They were initiating withdrawal proceedings due to non-payment. The same day, I got a text from my cousin Claire. Are you okay? Your mom called mine. She says you've abandoned the family. I didn't respond right away. I stared at the message, reread the word abandoned, and felt it coil in my stomach like something sour. Was that the narrative now? That I had just vanished for no reason? Not that I'd carried their weight for years? Not that I'd paid bills I never owed, shouldered loans I never took, funded dreams I was never invited into? I didn't abandon them. I just stopped performing. Claire followed up a few minutes later. I've seen how they treat you. You don't owe them anything, Elena. Her words landed heavier than I expected. Because Claire had always been on the sidelines, just like me. She knew. She saw. That weekend, I let myself breathe a little. I went to the farmer's market. I bought tulips. I took a long walk in the park without checking my phone. And when I got home, I didn't cook for anyone else. I made a single serving of roasted salmon and ate it in silence. Peaceful, sacred silence. Meanwhile, the house I'd grown up in was turning into a panic room. According to Claire, Dad had missed a payment on the second mortgage, the one I didn't even know existed until I started digging. Mom was calling cousins, asking for short-term help. Amber had withdrawn from one class already, blaming unexpected financial disruptions. And all of them? Still no apology. No acknowledgement. Just escalating chaos and blame. They wanted to pretend I'd disappeared on a whim. That I was unstable. Overreacting. Dramatic. But they never talked about the years I showed up. The years I paid. Covered. Fixed. They only noticed my absence when the money disappeared. That's the thing about being invisible in a family. They don't notice when you're hurting, but they scream when you stop helping. So I stayed gone. And I watched from a safe distance as the cracks they ignored began to widen. The lake house had always been a symbol. To everyone else in the family, it was where memories were made, cookouts, fireworks, 4th of July photos posted online with captions like "Family First." But to me, it was something else entirely. It was a transaction. A 5-year-long monthly reminder of how much I was willing to give for a seat at a table that always felt borrowed. They'd never admit it, but without my help, the lake house would have been gone years ago. The pipes were rotting, the roof leaked, and the mortgage was behind. I'd stepped in when Dad threatened to sell it because, if no one cares enough to save it, what's the point? I cared. Or at least, I convinced myself I did. So I paid. Quietly. Every month. No plaque on the wall. No thank you note. Just, "You're such a good daughter," murmured once in passing, followed by another request the next month. But something had been nagging at me ever since I cut everyone off. Who actually owned the lake house now? I pulled up the property records online. And there it was. My name. I was the sole legal owner. Not shared. Not partial. Not co-signed. They'd promised it was a family asset, but they'd put it in my name so I could qualify for a better interest rate and handle the tax filings. They never thought I'd remember, or look, or use it. But I did. And for the first time in a long time, I felt power shift. I called Daniel, a lawyer Claire had once recommended, steady, kind, no nonsense. I sent him every document I had, the deed, the payment history, the emails where Mom called it your investment. His response was immediate. "You can sell this tomorrow if you want." So I made a decision. Not for revenge, not to make a scene, but to reclaim something that was mine. I booked a flight back to my hometown under a different name. No one knew I was coming. I didn't even tell Claire. The lake house sat at the end of a long gravel road, wrapped in early autumn fog. The siding was fading, the shutters hung crooked. I stood on the porch for a full minute before unlocking the door with the spare key no one had bothered to take back. Inside, everything looked staged, cozy, lived in. There were framed pictures of Amber and Dad fishing, Mom arranging flowers, but not one single photo of me. I smiled to myself, then took out my phone. Photos of the interior, the view of the lake, the front porch swing, all for the real estate listing. By nightfall, Daniel had everything he needed to initiate the sale. The house meant everything to them, but it finally meant something to me too. A clean break. The listing went live on a Monday morning. By Tuesday afternoon, I had already received 2 full-price offers. Both buyers loved the lake view and the warm, nostalgic charm. Neither of them had any idea that behind those vintage curtains and porch swings was a long history of quiet manipulation. I didn't tell anyone I was selling. Not out of secrecy. Out of peace. But peace, of course, never lasts when your family is built on expectations disguised as love. That Wednesday evening, I sent one final message to the family group chat I'd been muted from emotionally long before I actually left it. I wrote, "You said I never gave this family anything, so I'm finally giving you what you've always acted like you wanted: distance. No more tuition. No more emergency bills. No more house. Sell your own memories. I'm out." Then I did what I should have done years ago. I left the group chat. I blocked every number. I turned off the faucet they kept draining, without even glancing at the well. And then, silence. For 2 whole days. Until the news finally caught up with them. Claire called me first, almost out of breath. "Elena, your dad called my mom in a panic. Said something about the lake house being listed. He's furious." I let out a breath through a smile. "Good." She hesitated. "He said you betrayed the family, that you blindsided them." I didn't even blink. "They never saw me, Claire. How can you blindside people who never turn to look at you?" What followed was an avalanche. Voicemails from Mom that started with guilt and ended in desperation. Angry texts from Amber. "Why are you doing this? You're breaking everything." A final email from Dad, with the subject line, "This isn't over." And yet, in my world it was. Because for the first time, I wasn't the one cleaning up after them. I wasn't scrambling to patch leaks, or wire money, or smooth things over. I was just still. And in that stillness, I saw things clearly. They didn't miss me. They missed the version of me that served them. The one who paid, stayed quiet, made life easier. And now that she was gone, they didn't know what to do with the silence she left behind. I didn't return to town to cause a scene. I came to sign the closing papers. But life, as it always does, had other plans. The buyers were scheduled to walk through the lake house that Saturday morning. Daniel, my lawyer, was already there when I arrived, checking final documents with the agent. The house looked smaller, somehow less grand, more hollow. Maybe it was always that way, and I just couldn't see it before. I parked at the end of the gravel drive. The air was cold and sharp, the kind of autumn morning that hinted at winter. And then, they arrived. A familiar rusted SUV pulled up fast. The doors slammed. It was them. Dad stormed out first, his face already red. Amber followed, pacing, muttering something under her breath. Mom trailed behind, arms crossed, eyes tired in a way I hadn't seen before. Or maybe I just hadn't looked. They spotted me on the porch. My father didn't hesitate. "You really think you can just take this from us?" he barked, marching up the steps. I didn't flinch. "It's not yours to take. It never was. We built this house as a family." I cut him off. "No, you decorated it. I paid for it. Alone. Every month, every repair, every tax." He looked at me like I'd just punched him in the chest. Amber stepped forward next. "Elena, I've had to drop 2 classes. Do you have any idea what this is doing to me?" I turned to face her fully. "I paid your tuition for 3 years, Amber. Rent, books, groceries. You never once said thank you. And when Dad humiliated me in front of the entire family, you sat there, silent." "I didn't know what to say," she said, voice cracking. "You didn't need words. You needed a spine." She looked down. Mom finally spoke. "You're throwing away your family over money?" I shook my head slowly. "No, Mom. I'm letting go of people who only saw me when I was useful. I was never your daughter. I was your ATM with a pulse." Her eyes filled, but I didn't feel guilt. "Not anymore." Dad's voice rose again. "This is petty, spiteful. You'll regret this when you're alone someday." I stared at him for a long moment, then reached into my bag and pulled out a folder. Inside was a copy of the original agreement he signed. When I took over the mortgage, his own words, his own signature, stating the house was mine in full. I handed it to him. "You signed it. You forgot." I didn't. He opened it with shaky hands. "Read it." Went quiet. Behind him, Amber was crying. Claire arrived then. She had offered to bring a notary. She stood by my side, calm and composed, a small reminder that I wasn't alone in this. The buyers pulled up next. An older couple, kind eyes, warm smiles. The husband stepped out and said, "Beautiful morning for a fresh start, isn't it?" I nodded. "Perfect day for it." My family stood there, stunned, watching strangers step inside what they believed was our home. But the truth was, it had only ever been mine. I turned back one last time, looked each of them in the eyes. "This isn't revenge," I said softly. "It's relief." Then I stepped inside, closed the door behind me, and left them on the porch still, trying to make sense of a world where I no longer played the part they assigned me. The papers were signed within the hour. And just like that, the house and the version of me that lived inside it was gone. A few days after the sale closed, Claire sent me a screenshot. It was a Reddit post. Anonymous. But the story? Instantly recognizable. "My sister abandoned our family during a crisis. I'm a full-time student, and she cut off my tuition without warning. We don't know what happened, she just changed overnight. I don't know how to stay in school." The username was random, the writing carefully edited. But it was Amber. I knew her phrasing. I knew her rhythm. And so did the donors. The post had already raised a few $1,000s from sympathetic strangers. Claire messaged. "She's monetizing the fallout." I didn't rage. I didn't even reply to Amber. I just opened my records. Tuition receipts, rent, transfers, bookstore invoices, all in my name, all paid from my accounts. I uploaded them to a private Imgur folder. No names, no attacks, just dates, amounts, screenshots. Then, under the Reddit post, I left one comment. "Before you donate, maybe ask where the previous 72 went. Some people forget who helped them until the help stops." It didn't go viral. It didn't need to. Within 24 hours, the moderators removed the post for Suspicious activity. The comment section turned. For the first time, the story wasn't hers to control. It was mine. I moved a month later. Not across the country, just far enough that no one could drop by without calling. A quiet loft, big windows, creaky floors that I loved from the first step. No family photos came with me. No inherited guilt. No emergency fund labeled just in case mom calls. I bought a cactus. I named her June. For the first time, I let my space be mine. The calls stopped. The emails dried up. The panic faded. And with it, so did the ache I thought would last forever. I didn't forgive them. But I didn't carry them anymore either. Claire visited one Saturday. She brought soup, hugs, and a small envelope. Inside was a Polaroid. It was me and her, age 9, sitting on the dock at the lake house, legs in the water, laughing like we had nothing to prove. On the back, she'd written, "You've always given more than they ever saw. I saw." I cried for the first time in weeks. Not because I was sad, because I finally felt seen. One night, Amber emailed. "I don't expect a reply. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I get it now." I read it. Twice. Then I archived it. Not out of bitterness, but because I no longer needed her apology to be okay. I already was.